Imagine you're a hiring manager. You're sitting at your desk and you're looking at two resumes.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So one candidate spent 4 years and probably, I don't know, $100,000 sitting in a very prestigious brick-and-mortar lecture hall.
Yeah, the classic route.
Right. But the other candidate spent a fraction of that money, learned the exact same curriculum, and did it entirely in their sweatpants from their living room couch.
That's a very vivid image.
Well, for decades, society basically drilled it into our heads that the first resume, the traditional one, was the absolute gold standard. But today, we're going to show you why employers are actually starting to prefer the person in the sweatpants.
It's a massive shift, honestly. I mean, it completely changes how we evaluate capability. The traditional physical classroom has held this monopoly on prestige for, well, centuries.
Oh, absolutely.
But the digital revolution hasn't just offered an alternative, it has completely fractured that monopoly.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we are putting that endless online versus traditional debate right under the microscope.
And I'm thrilled to be here to help break it all down.
Our mission today is to figure out the actual tangible return on investment of digital education. We want to help you, the listener, figure out if this modern learning model actually fits your specific life, the way your brain processes information, and, your long-term career goals.
Yeah, and to map all of this out, we are drawing from a highly detailed analysis that was published by Regent Business School back in April of 2025.
Right, the piece by Professor Ahmed Shaik.
Exactly. Professor Shaik authored this research, and it really serves as a comprehensive landscape of modern online and distance learning. And he goes way beyond just listing the standard pros and cons.
Which we've all heard a million times.
Right. He actually digs into the mechanics of how pedagogy, which is the science of teaching, is fundamentally shifting right beneath our feet.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can start weighing the advantages against the pitfalls, we really need to clear the slate.
We do.
Because we have to establish exactly what modern online learning looks like today. I think a lot of us are probably carrying around some wildly outdated assumptions from the early days of the internet.
Oh, for sure. People think of dial-up and text forums.
Yeah, exactly. We aren't just talking about watching a grainy video and taking a multiple choice quiz anymore, are we?
Not at all. And that is a crucial starting point. When Professor Shaik evaluates e-learning today, he is defining a very specific, mature ecosystem.
Okay, so what does that actually look like?
Well, we're talking about remote learning facilitated through highly specialized digital environments. These are structured learning management systems, or LMS platforms, that seamlessly integrate video conferencing, interactive assignments, peer forums, and real-time grading.
And it seems like the defining characteristic here is the structure of time itself. You aren't bound by a campus clock.
No, not at all. You have total autonomy.
Right, so you could be studying at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, or maybe grinding through a module at midnight on a Sunday after the kids are finally asleep.
Which is huge for a working professional.
Yeah, it can be entirely self-paced using pre-recorded materials, or a blended approach where you join a live cohort with an instructor. It just molds around your lifestyle, rather than forcing your life to stop for a campus schedule.
Precisely. And the research also highlights a distinct variation of this, which is called distance learning.
Oh, right. Because people use e-learning and distance learning interchangeably all the time.
They do, but they are slightly different. In a pure distance learning model, the consumption of the knowledge, like the lectures, the reading, the daily assignments, is done 100% online and remotely.
Okay.
But when it comes time to actually prove what you know, you go and write the final exams in person at a designated testing center.
I really love that concept.
Yeah.
It is essentially a hybrid work model for your brain.
A hybrid work model.
Yeah, like you do all the daily grind, the heavy lifting in the comfort of your own home in your sweatpants. But you still have to put on a nice shirt and show up to the office, the exam hall, when it really truly counts to validate that knowledge.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You're intentionally separating the acquisition of knowledge from the validation of that knowledge.
Right.
And that validation piece brings us to the core of the debate, really. The actual worth of the degree.
Right, the value of the paper you get at the end. Because historically, people kind of assumed an online degree had this invisible asterisk next to it.
Yes, the stigma was very real.
But the data from Regent explicitly states that online courses from accredited schools offer the exact same value, the exact same resources, and the same international recognition as face-to-face learning.
It's identical.
Yeah, the research emphasizes that these degrees carry the exact same NQF level. And for anyone unfamiliar, NQF stands for the National Qualifications Framework.
Which is the gold standard for accreditation.
Exactly. Basically, it's the official government standard that proves your degree holds the exact same academic weight and rigor, regardless of how it was delivered. So does this mean the old stigma against online degrees is finally completely dead?
What's fascinating here is how deeply ingrained our location-based bias has been.
Location-based bias.
Yeah. For centuries, we basically equated the quality of learning with the prestige of the physical building you walked into. You know, the ivy on the walls, the grand library.
The whole Hogwarts aesthetic.
Exactly. But the data argues that deliverability does not equal value. If the curriculum is identical, the resources are identical, and the regulatory standards, like that NQF level you mentioned, are identical.
Then the location shouldn't matter.
Right. The geographic location of the student is academically irrelevant. The stigma is dissolving entirely because accreditation bodies, and especially modern employers, are focusing on the rigor of the content, not the coordinates of your desk.
Okay, so if the academic value is identical, the old argument of prestige sort of goes out the window.
It really does.
The real question for you, the listener, becomes purely economic and psychological. Like, does studying from your couch actually yield a better return on your time? Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the research frames the modern online learning experience almost like a DVR for your education.
A DVR. Okay, let's explore how that plays out in practice.
Well, think about the mechanics of a traditional lecture hall. You have, say, 200 students, and the professor has to teach at the exact average speed of the room.
Right, they have to cater to the middle.
Exactly. So if you're tackling a module in statistics that you find incredibly easy, you are forced to sit there for an hour waiting for the rest of the class to catch up.
Which is incredibly inefficient.
Yes, but in an online, self-paced module, you just hit fast forward. You speed right through the concepts you already grasp.
And if you hit something difficult,
That's the best part. If you hit a complex concept that completely melts your brain, you can hit pause. You can rewind. You can spend an entire week rewatching a single 10-minute breakdown of a formula without feeling that terrible anxiety that you're falling behind the syllabus.
I love that. And that level of mechanical personalization is tied directly to accessibility, right? The geographic barriers are entirely removed.
Which changes everything for non-traditional students.
Absolutely. Professor Shaik emphasizes that this allows you to weave an education around major non-negotiable life commitments.
Like having a job or kids.
Exactly. Whether you are working a demanding full-time job, or you're a parent caring for young children, or even elderly family members, the classroom is wherever you happen to be.
We also have to look at the financial ROI. The research points out that online learning is drastically cheaper.
Oh, the cost savings are undeniable.
Yeah, you're eliminating the daily commute, the fluctuating fuel costs, and the massive, often crippling expense of relocating or paying for campus accommodation.
Not to mention the tuition itself.
Right. Tuition fees are generally lower because the institution is saving millions on physical infrastructure. They don't have to heat a massive lecture hall or maintain a sprawling campus. You're also trading those incredibly heavy $200 textbooks for digital resources that are usually just included in the portal.
It's a much leaner model.
It is. But, and I have to play devil's advocate here, I do have to push back on this economic narrative just a little bit. The source mentions massive cost savings on fuel and infrastructure. But doesn't this just shift the financial burden of high-speed internet and tech hardware directly onto the student?
I thought you might bring that up. Where do you see the friction exactly?
Well, the data highlights all these massive cost savings for the institution regarding physical infrastructure and savings for the student on fuel and housing. But to do this successfully, you cannot just use a 10-year-old laptop and a spotty Wi-Fi connection.
No, you really can't.
You need high-speed, incredibly reliable internet. You need a highly capable machine, maybe a second monitor to read PDFs while you write, a good webcam, and a quiet space to work. Tech hardware isn't cheap. Are we really saving money, or are we just reallocating our campus housing budget to our personal home IT department?
That is a very valid real-world critique. You are absolutely reallocating costs, and the research readily acknowledges that e-learning is heavily reliant on technology. It requires an initial capital investment from the student. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the ROI of an online degree isn't just measured in dollars saved on gas or housing.
What else is there?
Well, the research highlights a massive, often hidden advantage that comes from managing that exact home IT department you just mentioned. It's the development of intrinsic soft skills.
Oh, this is the hidden resume booster we talked about at the very beginning with the hiring manager scenario.
Exactly. When you study online, no one is standing over your shoulder making sure you log in. No one is reminding you that your essay is due on Friday.
You're completely on your own.
Yes. You are solely responsible for setting aside the time to learn, to troubleshoot your own tech, to finish assignments, and to prepare for exams. It forces a profound, sometimes uncomfortable level of self-discipline and time management.
Which employers love.
They do. Professor Shaik's research explicitly points out that modern employers highly value these exact skills. It proves to an employer that you're a self-starter. It proves you're reliable, that you can manage a complex, digital-first schedule independently, and that you meet your deadlines without constant micromanagement. They care just as much about the process of how you got the degree as they do the degree itself.
Wow, that completely changes how I view the resume. The medium actually becomes the message.
It really does.
The sheer fact that you survived an online degree program signals to a hiring manager that you can easily handle a remote work position or manage autonomous corporate projects. You've already proven you can produce results without a babysitter.
Exactly.
But of course, that autonomy has a dark side.
Uh-huh.
My pushback earlier about the technological burden transitions us perfectly into the very real hurdles of this model.
Yes, the disadvantages. Because it is crucial to understand that this is not a perfect system, and the analysis is very transparent about where students actually fail.
Let's look at the technological friction first. The research warns about a surprisingly steep learning curve.
It's not as intuitive as people think.
No. Students frequently face unreliable internet connections right in the middle of a timed exam, limited access to the right software, massive gaps in technical support, and complicated learning platforms that can feel completely overwhelming.
And that friction can be incredibly demoralizing.
I can imagine.
Yeah, when you sit down to learn advanced accounting or business marketing, you want to focus 100% of your cognitive energy on the curriculum. You do not want to spend an hour troubleshooting your router or trying to figure out why the LMS won't accept your PDF upload.
It just drains your battery.
Exactly. It drains your mental battery before the learning even begins.
Then there's the emotional and psychological toll, which I think is even bigger. Social isolation.
This is a huge one.
The data mentions the sheer loneliness of missing out on traditional campus socialization. When you study remotely, you don't have that ambient peer pressure of seeing other students studying in the library.
Right, you're in a vacuum.
Yeah, you aren't bumping into people in the hallway to clarify a lecture. You aren't grabbing a coffee to debate a topic. To mitigate this, the research suggests you have to manufacture your own social life, setting up virtual meetings, intentionally building study groups, reaching out on forums. It takes a lot of proactive effort.
It does. And if you fail to put in that effort, that isolation ties directly into the third major disadvantage that the analysis outlines, which is the time management trap.
So what does this all mean? If we put this together, the incredible flexibility we praised earlier can actually become the thing that defeats you.
How so?
It's like buying an expensive home gym but never using it because you don't have a personal trainer yelling at you to do the reps.
Yeah.
You have all the equipment, right? The potential is there. But if you don't set your own schedule and force yourself onto the treadmill, you don't get the results. If you are someone who lacks innate self-discipline, or who truly needs constant direction and immediate feedback from a lecturer to stay on track, the online learning environment will let you fail very quietly.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. How do you personally handle autonomy?
Yeah, that's the real test.
Because that is the true barrier to entry here. When you look at all this data together, the real takeaway is that humans actually adapt to the technological friction very quickly. You figure out the software by week 3.
Right, it becomes second nature.
But the isolation and the sheer weight of self-direction, that is an enduring psychological challenge that doesn't magically go away after a month.
You really have to be deeply honest with yourself about how your brain functions best under pressure. Which makes me wonder if the primary hurdles of e-learning right now are screen fatigue, tech glitches, and this profound sense of isolation. How is the industry trying to fix it?
They are definitely working on it.
Because Professor Shaik's research doesn't just look at the landscape of today, it spends a lot of time pointing toward the future.
And the future described in this research is explicitly being designed to solve those exact problems of isolation and passivity. The pedagogy is actively moving away from passive content delivery, which is essentially just watching a recorded video or reading a flat PDF, and moving toward highly dynamic, immersive, and interactive digital experiences.
And the mechanics of how they are doing this are wild. The research dives into virtual reality setups and artificial intelligence-based tutoring.
It's straight out of science fiction.
It really is. But how does that actually work in practice? How does putting on a VR headset solve the isolation problem we just talked about?
It solves it through the psychological concept of presence.
Presence.
Yeah. Right now, a Zoom grid feels flat because your brain now is you are staring at a screen. In a VR environment, you inhabit a spatial 3D room. You hear spatial audio, meaning if a classmate speaks to your left, it sounds like they are standing to your left.
Oh, wow. That's a huge difference.
It is. You can walk up to a digital whiteboard with a group of peers and manipulate 3D models of human anatomy or complex engineering schematics together in real time. It tricks the brain into feeling genuine proximity to other human beings, which drastically reduces that feeling of lonely, siloed learning.
That is fascinating. It brings the ambient peer pressure and the water cooler moments back into the digital space.
Exactly.
And what about the artificial intelligence side of things? We hear AI thrown around as a buzzword constantly, but how does an AI tutor actually function mechanically to help a student?
Mechanics are everything here. An AI tutor doesn't just grade multiple choice questions, it uses predictive algorithms to track exactly how you interact with the material.
Like tracking how long I spend on a page.
Yes. Let's say you are taking a corporate finance module. The AI notices that you hesitate for an unusual amount of time on questions related to compound interest, or that you keep rereading the same paragraph.
So it knows I'm confused before I even take a test.
Exactly. Before you take a test and fail it, the AI recognizes your struggle in real time. It dynamically adjusts the curriculum, perhaps generating a customized interactive game, or pulling up a simpler analogy to explain compound interest to you right in that moment. It provides the immediate, tailored feedback of a private human tutor available 24/7.
That totally solves the DVR problem automatically. You don't even have to realize you need to rewind. The system just knows to slow down for you.
It's incredibly intuitive.
And the research highlights that these massive educational ecosystems already exist to support this kind of advanced transition right now. It uses Regent Business School, which is part of the Honoris United Universities network, as a prime example of a mature digital infrastructure.
Yes, the scale of what is already available is impressive. They aren't just experimenting with 1 or 2 introductory classes online to see if the tech works. The pipeline is fully realized.
The variety of what you can study from your living room is staggering. We are talking about everything from higher certificates in entrepreneurship and healthcare services management, all the way up to specialized bachelor's degrees, honors programs, and master's degrees, like an MBA in healthcare management.
It covers so much ground.
It does. The pipeline even goes all the way to a terminal doctoral degree. You can earn a Doctor of Business Administration or study incredibly niche, specialized fields like Islamic finance and banking, all within this digital framework. It proves the infrastructure is robust enough to handle the highest levels of academic rigor.
Exactly. When you can facilitate a rigorous, peer-reviewed doctoral dissertation entirely through a digital platform, it proves the medium has fundamentally matured.
But looking at that future tech, the VR avatars, the algorithmic AI adjusting your curriculum, the gamification dopamine loops, I have a slightly philosophical question for you. If AI is acting as our tutor and VR is replacing our campus, are we eventually going to lose the human element of education entirely, or is this actually making it more personalized?
That is the central tension of the next decade of education. But analyzing Professor Shaik's vision, I think the data offers a lot of reassurance.
How so?
Well, the research frames AI and gamification not as cold, sterile replacements for human curiosity, but as powerful tools to handle the mechanical friction of learning. Think about the physical limitation of a human lecture. They cannot possibly look at a room of 200 students and know instantly which 40 students are secretly struggling with a specific formula.
But an AI tutor can.
Precisely. It provides the tailored pacing of a private tutor and the engagement of a game, which actually frees up the human educators.
Oh, I see.
Instead of spending their time repeating the same basic lecture on a whiteboard, professors can elevate their role. They can focus on high-level mentorship, complex philosophical debates, and guiding students through nuanced real-world applications. It is about using technology to remove the friction of learning, which preserves the soul of human connection for when it really matters.
That makes perfect sense. The human interaction becomes highly concentrated and meaningful, rather than just passive listening. Well, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today.
We really have.
To summarize what we've unpacked, online learning is simply no longer the secondary backup option it was once viewed as. According to the research and the academic standards, it is a highly flexible, incredibly cost-effective global standard. It offers you the exact same NQF level rigor and international recognition as sitting in a traditional brick-and-mortar classroom. But, and this is the massive, unavoidable but, it requires you to step up and act as the foreman of your own education.
You have to be willing to troubleshoot the technology, you have to actively fight the psychological isolation, and you have to generate your own daily momentum without a boss looking over your shoulder.
Exactly, and we want to connect this right back to you. Whether you are prepping for a high-stakes boardroom meeting, trying to catch up on an emerging industry trend, or seriously considering applying for that MBA, understanding how you absorb information and how much autonomy you can comfortably handle is just as critical as what you are actually choosing to learn. You have to know your own brain.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on those mechanics of the future we just discussed.
Let's hear it.
We talked about how AI tutoring systems will dynamically adapt to your personal pace, identifying your weaknesses and tailoring the curriculum perfectly to your individual brain's speed and learning style. If artificial intelligence can eventually execute that perfectly for every single student on Earth, will the traditional one-size-fits-all physical classroom lecture eventually be viewed not just as an alternative, but as a completely outdated, mathematically inefficient way for humans to learn?
Oh, wow. That is a fascinating question. If the technology gets that predictive and that personalized, sitting in a room of 200 people listening to a generalized lecture might start to feel like using a typewriter in the age of smartphones. It's fundamentally inefficient.
Exactly.
Something to definitely think about the next time you are weighing your educational options and staring at those two paths. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring how you learn best, and we will catch you next time.